Okay. Hello. Hi. Can you hear me? Are we good? How is everyone doing? I hope you had a nice weekend. I hope you've enjoyed watching this footage we have right here. I said what this is in the chat not long ago, but this is Wolverine Soft Studio. I hope we're not lagging too much. The game you've been watching is a game by Wolverine Soft Studio, which is an MDP team here at the University of Michigan. It is a 30-person student game studio that releases commercial games to itch.io, and maybe even in the future, platforms like Steam. And it is an experience. I think anyone who's taken it will tell you that. Amber certainly would. You learn a tremendous amount. If you think you're learning a lot right now with 4-person teams on your P3 projects, try spending an entire semester and getting credit for it, of course, and being on a team of 30 instead of, 5 or 6. You have so many more challenges that you have to face in terms of logistics, in terms of figuring out who's going to do what, in terms of simply checking in your code and keeping the project stable. But it is a much more realistic kind of experience for how a real deal, AA studio tends to function. But anyway, all right. How's everyone doing? Are you feeling okay? Have you had a chance to watch your feedback yet from the instructor grading last night? Has anyone had a chance? It was a little bit of a rough week, and that's gonna happen. All right, don't feel bad if maybe your score wasn't quite as high as you'd hoped. A ton of time, right? A ton of time to get those points. There's a ton of points left on the board. If you really want to, there's some extra credit assignments that are available. We'll talk about those today. But don't be discouraged, okay? A ton of teams have kind of a rough going in those first few weeks and then really come into their own toward the end, and that's where all the points are, all right? So you'll be fine. Wellness day was not enough. I feel you. I feel you. The lack of an extended, spring break, right? A week-long break this semester, you feel it. And it's not just the students, but it's the grading staff as well. It's the instructional staff. But I think where that time went is we had an extended winter break, and so I think that's why we have a little bit less time off during the semester itself. Anyway, okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. I'll go ahead and turn off our Wii channel music there. I posted this lecture plan. We are all drowning, but we're drowning together, and that's what matters, right? We're all in it together, so we'll make it through. Don't worry, team. Just do. Hey, if you're feeling stressed, just do the best you can, okay? And take note that taking care of yourself, right? Taking a little bit of time off, cutting some things that you wanted to do. It's a part of life, and it's a part of high-quality project management. Sometimes, you just can't get to the things you want to do, and maybe that costs you, a few points, but a few points, it might be worth the trade, okay? It might be worth the trade, and hopefully you won't lose too much. But place a high value on your health, and place a lot of value on getting enough sleep, eating, playing some games, right? Doing some recreation. You will find that you're much, much, much more efficient if you find a way to accomplish these things, right? If you're getting enough sleep, if you're eating all right, you're going to get those points back. You're going to get that. You're going to get more done in the long term. Okay, so it can feel very painful in the moment. We're all perfectionists here, but you have to do your best to really weigh the your decision there. Okay, it's another interesting decision, right? That makes life so interesting to experience. Okay, so let's go ahead and get through some announcements, and then what I want to do is I want to take you through a couple extra credit assignments that are now available to you, and these two should not take very long at all. Okay, so they're very high point values for the amount of time that you spend in them. I want to take you through a mini lecture on scriptable objects, which is a really kind of unique and very nice way of organizing the data that powers your game. If you think about, okay, I'm making a tower defense game, or I'm making like a game where waves of enemies appear when you reach a certain location. How do you configure which enemies appear? How do you configure how long the onslaught lasts? Creating data structures that are really easy to customize, and that you can experiment with and edit in real time, is where scriptable objects come in really, really handy. We'll show you how to do that in just a little bit, okay? And then we want to show you some animation resources. A lot of you in this Project 3 are making three-dimensional games. And this is not an animation course. This is not really an art course. And so finding resources that can help us get an acceptable result is really, really useful. Mixamo is one of the most enjoyable resources out there. It's very, 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 very cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Then we will come back and we'll finish up our lecture on scaling your production, so how big teams work. Okay, so let's get going. So a few cool announcements here. I found this resource. I think it was on Reddit. Roles every indie developer must know. If you are a lone person on a game team, then you'll find yourself taking on a lot of the following tasks. You will be wearing a ton of hats, whereas a AA or AAA team might have a person dedicated to each of these roles. On a smaller team, a startup, you will be doing a lot of this. And it's presented in a really funny way. On the topic of doors, so let's say your game needs doors, how each of these roles will kind of react to and think about that fact that doors are coming into our game. The creative director says, yes, we definitely need doors in the game. So the creative director kind of is trying to set the creative direction for the entire project, decide what is critical and what is not. A project manager says, I'll put time on the schedule for people to make doors. So I'll allocate and then manage the time to get that task done. The designer says, I wrote a document explaining what we need doors to do. So, how do we know what a door needs? When is it complete? What are the most essential features? Concept artist, I made some gorgeous paintings of doors so that we know roughly how ideally we would like this to look when it's in the game. Art director, the third painting is exactly the style of doors we need. Environmental artist, I took this painting of a door and made it into an object in the game. Animator, I made the door open and close. Sound designer, made the sounds the door creates when it opens and closes. Composer, I created a theme song for the door. Maybe the door's a character. Lighter, there's a bright red light over the door when it's locked and a green one when it's opened. Legal, the environment artist put a Starbucks logo on the door. You need to remove that if you don't want to be sued, right? Gameplay programmer, this door asset now opens and closes based on proximity to the player. It can also be locked and unlocked through a script. Combat designer, enemies will spawn behind doors and lay cover fire as their allies enter the room unless the player is looking inside the door, in which case they will spawn behind a different door. System designer. A level 4 player earns 148 XP for opening this door at the cost of 3 gold. Localization, door, different languages, right? Translations. Producer, do we need to give everyone those doors, or can we save them for the pre-order bonus? Oh yeah, right? Community manager, I'll let the fans know that their concerns about doors will be addressed in the upcoming patch. Player, I totally didn't even notice a door there, right? So a really, really, really fun way to kind of get a very small feel for what all of these different disciplines do. The way that they would respond to the introduction of doors into a big game project is pretty interesting. And there's a lot. Doors are interesting in that apparently they're very difficult to make in AAA luxurious ways. But I don't know, like the games I make, you just tend to walk up to a door, click on it, and you just go through. Fade out to black, fade back in. No one seems to care. But, you know, that's why I'm an indie dev, I guess. Okay, so let's keep going. Very, very fun resource. You can read this now if you want to. This has been posted in the schedule. Actually, let's take a look at that schedule, okay? Right here we are. We're on Wednesday the 24th. We're less than a month away from the showcase, team. We are really, really getting there very fast. We are right in the middle of your P3 Milestone 2, which is very, very similar to P3 Milestone 1. You are just continuing to iterate. You're probably introducing new mechanics into your game. And for most of you, you're trying to refine and figure out what your core mechanics are. Remember, you want your core mechanics to be accessible so that people can engage with your game, but you want them to also be deep, so that there's a lot to explore and discover about how these mechanics work and how they can be used. All right, so let's keep going. You've got the extra credit freelancer cooperation assignment, which we'll talk about in a sec. You've got the P3 analytics assignment, which we'll also talk about in a sec. Okay. In the future, we will be starting on, and in the somewhat near future, we'll be starting on your trailers. Okay, so that's coming up very fast. Okay, let's get back to it. This is just kind of a note, a general note. One of the feelings that's very easy to get as you work on something, right, is you work harder and harder as you put more and more time investment into something. There's sometimes this feeling that, you know, hey, it's just getting better and better. You know, we're more redundant. We're safe, right? Our risk is lowering as we work more and more and more on a project. I want you to know that's not always the case, okay? Who has heard in here of the Mars Climate Rover? The Mars Climate Orbiter. This was, everyone has probably heard of the recent Curiosity rover that reached Mars and is now walking around and sending us beautiful video of what the planet looks like. But this was, I believe, when was this? This was a 1998 orbiter that was sent to Mars long before the Curiosity was. And what's interesting about this device was that it cost millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And, well, unfortunately, when it got to Mars, it was trying to, I guess, maneuver itself into the right position. And instead of doing that, it decided to hit the gas as it got close to Mars and slam, boom, right into the surface of Mars. That was not its purpose, and it was not very useful after it crashed into Mars. So a humongous, devastating disappointment. It's easy to imagine some people lost their careers or had their legacies tarnished. In a lot of trust lost in their institution when this happened. Do you know why this happened? As it turns out, there was internal teams at NASA that I believe were using the metric system for their calculations, and there were contractors who were using imperial units for their calculations. As a result of this miscommunication, a tiny little miscommunication, the amount of force that the orbiter used to navigate was way too high, I believe, and it just slammed right in to the planet. Okay, so I want you to imagine that someone spent like 5 years working on this, and another person, many people spent 5 years getting the funding for this. Many people spent 5 years like using this to promote science, and all of that went up in flames in a humongous, embarrassing explosion. And all of it because one tiny thing was off, okay? It's the idea that just because you invest a ton of resources in something does not mean that the risk goes down that much. The risk can still be very, very high. Another example is James Cordier, which you may have heard of. He was a hedge fund manager, I forget who. He lost 150 million United States dollars of his investors' money with a couple bad bets on natural gas. We have a Bloomberg article here. He was using a technique called naked options, which I don't really remember. I'm not quite sure how they work, but I know that they're very, very risky. That is to say that just because you have a lot of resources, just because you've done and invested a lot, doesn't mean that you're not going to lose it all if you're careless. And it created this meme right here, I guess. Oh yeah, if you've ever seen this guy, this was the video he had to give after losing 150 million of his clients' money. Capcom. Who's played Street Fighter V? Who's heard of Street Fighter V? Has anyone? Street Fighter V was an interesting game. When it launched on PC, it launched with a little extra file included in the deliverable, and this is something that can pretty easily happen. For instance, in a version control program, if you just choose accidentally to include files in a build that you were using for development. Well, one of those was actually a rootkit. Okay, a rootkit, and I imagine Capcom was using it on their development machines for some purpose, but they included it and sent it to their customers. So in other words, because of one little checkbox in probably their version control software, they ended up sending all of their early adopters a rootkit, okay? And if you know anything about how these AAA games tend to sell, these games sell and make most of their money in the first couple weeks. So you really need to nail the launch. It needs to go smoothly. Players need to be able to get the game, be happy with it, so that the word can spread. And any delay there, any interruption is going to be humongously impactful to the success of the game. And thereafter the success of all your other games, right? And so Capcom, because of a tiny little mistake, had a really hard time selling this game in its first couple days. The customers were furious at getting a rootkit onto their machine suddenly, and the word and negative publicity spread. The word after this launch happened was, "Do not download this game. Wait." And of course, if you wait too long, then the sales period is passed. So a lot of people worked very, very, very hard on this game, and one tiny little mistake in the launch caused a lot of effort to go down the drain in a way. Okay, so this is all pretty depressing, isn't it? This is very, very depressing. But one of the things that we can try and do to get away from this is we can try and develop habits that catch these things before they go out. So you're probably on your P3 team doing some of this already. When someone submits the build, you want to make sure you submit early. You submit, 24 hours, 12 hours, 3 hours early if you can. And, when someone submits, they let everyone else know, and then all the other people on their team download the game. They make sure it runs. They make sure they look through the spec one time, especially the deliverables section in the rubric, and they check to make sure everything's there. Okay, checklist, boom. I need this, got this. I need this, got this. I need this, got this. These kind of habits can provide a lot of redundancy that can help catch these issues before they appear and have a humongous impact. Okay, so that is something I recommend. It is a scary fact that as we invest more and more time and stuff and money, and things get more and more complicated, a lot of it can be undone if we're not careful. So we need to develop those habits over time. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about a course. I think, does anyone know when backpacking starts? When registration starts? I think it's coming up pretty soon. So if you are interested in game development, if you like this course, if you are interested in kind of exploring game development topics that maybe we didn't cover in this class. Like maybe you really want to learn how to automatically generate environments. Well, we have a course that called EECS 499, Section 210. It is a independent research course, or directed research course, where you get to go and you spend a number of hours per week based on the, let's see here. You spend a number of hours per week exploring whatever topic you want. And that can actually scale up. If you want to take it for 2 credits, then you spend 6 hours per week exploring. If you want to spend less time, then 1 credit would get you 3 hours. 4 credits would require, about 12 hours? And you get to do cool stuff like this. Nigel Charleston was a former IA and former student in 494. Over the course of a semester, just using, I think, like 3 to 6 hours per week, he built a tool that allows you to automatically generate an environment, a topography, and then walk around it. He learned a lot about how Perlin noise works, and a lot about how companies like Sucker Punch generate their massive worlds. He actually got to talk to and interface with and get feedback from the person who created the Ghost of Tsushima's wonderful, beautiful world. It was procedurally generated, and it was created by UMich alum, Apoorva Bansal, who's a great supporter of this course in this university. But anyway, you can do a lot of very cool stuff. I think I can show off Ishwar's. Ishwar decided he wanted to explore the topic of music education gamification. And so what he did was he created a mobile app game and showed it off at the Design Expo, in which you essentially need to create rhythms and create beat patterns and experiment with those in order to help a character kind of get through an environment and in order to solve puzzles. It was a really, really, really cool project, and you can actually play the game online. I think it's still up, isn't it? Yep, there it is. Grid beat. And let's see here. Yeah, so it's kind of a it's kind of an interesting puzzle game. Ishwar can tell you a little bit more, but it was very, very, very fun. Okay, so let's keep going. I think I'll probably show you one more. This is maybe one of my favorites. A student, Matoska Waltz, not too long ago, created a Celeste bot. Celeste, if you've played this game, it's an indie platformer, very polished and very, very fun. And this is a game with a very open code base. There existed, when Matoska took 499, there existed a machine learning bot, an open source bot that the community had been working on for a while. But it wasn't doing very well. It was struggling to get past the first screen here. It used a technique that we talked about a while ago with Amar.io. It used a neural net and a downsampling of the environment to kind of feed that into a network, which then fed those those network signals out to a final kind of input layer that would control the character. And so what he was able to do was he took this open source project, he really looked into how it worked and how to improve it. He made it like he improved the efficiency of the computation by a factor of 10, which was a big deal because with this kind of training, reinforcement learning, it is all about how often and how fast can you train, how many iterations can you get in, and so he was able to get in a lot more because of that, and he was able to incorporate more data, which made the approach much smarter. And as a result, by the time he finished 499 a couple months later, the open source bot was able to get to a new record of the 4th room in this game, and he had a huge impact that way. So anyway, if you're interested in these kind of topics, it is a much more kind of relaxed course than EECS 494. It is not nearly as intense and as fast as this course is, but it can be an interesting way to get 1 to 4 FlexTech credits if you want to. Okay, so if you really want to, you can register your research interests here, and we'll send out applications and we'll get you registered if you want to. Okay, over the break. Okay, so does anyone have any questions? So here's the thing. You say, imagine being good enough to make anything like that. But it never starts that way. It always starts as an intimidating, huge problem, right? But you piece things together. You stand on the shoulders of giants. You've probably heard that phrase. You take things that exist and you go deep into it and you try and understand at least a little bit how it works. And because of that, you're able to build small improvements, like Matoska did, that can still have a big impact. You don't have to understand the full project. No one understands the full project. But that doesn't mean you can't find a way to have impact and keep that progress going. Anyway, don't be too intimidated. Everyone is intimidated when they see stuff like that. Okay, so let's talk about your extra credit assignments. These might be a little bit interesting to you. The first one is probably the easiest in our entire course and also the most lucrative from an extra credit standpoint. Oh, I think maybe this link is to the old semesters. I'm going to have to update that a little bit later. But anyway, let's look at the link here. Here it is. Okay. So has anyone taken Matthew Thompson's fantastic Pat 305 video game music course? Has anyone taken that? I'm going to make my screen a little bit smaller. This is a fantastic course that essentially takes you through the history of video game music, how it has evolved, and it also explores many of the techniques that make modern video game music so impactful today. And this course produces a lot of very talented musicians. And so what happens is we actually collaborate with that course. You are allowed to bring on an external freelancer that is a musician, and they will create some music for your game. If you do this, if you establish this relationship and put their music into your game, you're getting 5 points of extra credit in this course, okay? And it is, it's as easy as that, okay? You're getting those points, but it's not just Pat 305 and it's not just musician freelancers. It is also visual arts and animation freelancers, and it's also voice actors. And there are some hints in this document as to where you can find these freelancers. But the basic idea is music, art, voice acting. If you incorporate any of these, if you incorporate each of these disciplines, you'll get 15 points, 5 points per discipline. If you don't incorporate a discipline, you're not getting those 5 points, okay? In order to get these points, you need to fill out this template by Monday, okay? Now, this template right here is a spreadsheet. It's relatively simple. It's a little bit ugly, isn't it? But you fill this out, you make a copy of this, you fill it out, my primary contact on our team, the contact email, you're going to put the pitch for your game, the description in here, genres, min players, max players, Windows demo link, Mac demo link, and you're going to put some screenshots in here. And then you need to, down here, ask for, what are you seeking? I need a 3D freelancer who is really good at making, medieval characters. I need a freelancer who's going to make some great music. And in particular, we want underwater kind of calming music, exploratory music. We need a voice actor who's going to be a bold announcer character. Ready, go, right? Or a cop who doesn't play by the rules, right? Or a cyborg ninja. If you fill this document out, we will then send it out to the Pat 305 class, and they will make contact with you if they like your game and they want to participate and contribute to your project. At which point you'll do a back and forth, and you will eventually get the assets they produce, and you'll put it into the game. You'll get your points, okay? And that's essentially most of what you need to do. You fill out this document, and you're going to get those points. So it's often pretty fun. It can be a little bit frustrating if the freelancer is kind of if they don't communicate very quickly, very efficiently. But that's life. We want to get you experience with what interacting with an external party can be like. Must the VA be from SMTD? No, you have some other options as well, which include the wider internet. Okay. If you are in Pat 305 right now and in EECS 494, then you cannot count. Someone cannot, you cannot freelance with someone who's in EECS 494, okay? All right. How often do groups get someone from Pat 305 or don't get anyone who wants to join? I think about 75% of the teams that submit get a freelancer. And what we'll do in that case is you'll get the points anyway, even if you don't get a freelancer. So you don't need to worry too much. If you get unlucky, you're not going to lose points because of that. All right? Okay. All right. F's in the chat, everyone. It's, yep. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at your other extra credit assignment, P3 Analytics. So you know what? I think both of these are stale. Here's the thing. This is an example, a real life example of dry. Why you want to have a single source of truth for your documents if possible. These are not links to a shared across semesters Google document. These are links to a Canvas page because these extra credits are so small they don't have a Google document. Actually, that other one does though. So let's look in here and make sure. Yeah, I have to log in. If you have a ton of different links to different documents that roughly say the same thing, then you can get these stale references that are a big bummer. Okay, so here's your P3 Analytics assignment. You have to go into Canvas to see it. This is an assignment that tasks your team with coming up with some form of analytics that you implement. So maybe you decide as a team that you really want to know where players are dying, like Naughty Dog did with Jak and Daxter. Or you really want to know how far players are getting. You know, what levels do they get to? Or how long does a player spend in every level? Are they spending too much time? Where? Can we optimize that part of the game so they see more content before their 10 to 15 minutes is up at the showcase? The way that many teams will do this is they will use Unity's kind of built-in analytics service, which is really pretty neat. Unity has an analytics service that you can read about. It's very, very easy to use. And you essentially just have a couple function calls, and it then builds charts for you in your online Unity organization dashboard. You can see how many people are playing, how many people played this week. You can check out all sorts of different stats. Where are people dying? How many people died? How many times? What is the average number of deaths per player? How far are people getting on average? Stuff like that. And it's really, really neat. Anyway, what you need to do here is you need to provide a description of the analytics you chose to implement. You will need to show some images that actually show that data being collected so that we can see, okay, what does it look like on your end and how can you use this? And you'll also need to show a screenshot of the consent screen that pops up, okay? You should not be collecting data unless you have gotten permission from the user to do so. So often what this will be is it'll be like a radio button on the main menu that just says like allow recording of analytics to improve the game, and the user can click no or they can click yes, and there you go, right? If they click no, then you just do not execute any of your analytics related function calls. So it's a relatively straightforward extra credit, but it can be really, really fun if you enjoy kind of building tools, if you enjoy learning more and getting more insights into how people play your game. My instructor, when I took EECS 494 in 2014, was Isaiah Hines, who is now at Turn 10, which is the Microsoft studio that does Forza. He used to say there's very little separating an okay game from an amazing one. And often it's just the small tweaks and small bits of balancing that really make everything click and work together, your whole design. And these kinds of analytics can help you discover what those little tweaks are that you have to make. Often it's not always clear what the path forward is, but this kind of intelligence that you can gather via technology can help you a lot there. All right? Okay. So let's keep going here. We've got a lot of announcements. Jeez. Okay, some P3 notes. If your current P3 project, if you're talking with your team and you're playing it and you just feel it's a little bit lifeless, it still feels kind of like a tech demo. I'm not feeling the emotion here. I'm not feeling like this is an adventure. I'm not feeling like this is a real world that we're in with stakes and consequences and stuff going on in the background and lore. One of the reasons might be that your game lacks audio. And it's something that often gets neglected, but it is one of the most impactful things you can put into your game, and it's something that we're really going to start to expect very soon. Okay? And audio can absolutely change wholesale the emotion of your game and the emotion your players have and the investment your players have as they move through your world. So please consider dedicating someone to audio, background music, sound effects. Send them to freesound.org to find some good ambient tracks, some good background music tracks, some good sound effects, and then some voice acting. We don't have an audio lecture in this course. We probably should. But when it comes to audio, you can think of them as layers. At the very bottom of your audio hierarchy, you want a quiet ambient layer. So if you're in an office, you probably have a computer like humming sound that's playing, right? If you're outside, if your game world is set in the forest, you probably have some tweets of birds in the background and some rustling of leaves. Okay? At the very bottom layer is your and mixed to have the lowest volume is probably going to be your ambient track, and then above that it's going to be your background music, okay? Mixed a little bit higher. Then above that is going to be your sound effects. Very, very important because they help the player understand the state of the game. That's going to be mixed a little bit higher in volume than your background music. And then you have, at the very top, things like dialogue that are going to steal the player's attention no matter how quiet or loud they are. So they might as well be mixed at the top, a little bit louder than your sound effects. Okay? All right. What's a good way to share the audio if we aren't committing it to Git? If you're using something like Unity Collaborate, then just simply put the audio into your project, and it should go to all of your teammates. It should be replicated in their project views as well when they do a sync. If you're worried about size, like you found a humongous, 100 megabyte MP3 file that's like 20 minutes long, you might want to ask, do we need it to be 20 minutes long? Can we establish a loop somewhere in there that's going to be just as effective but cut our time down? And then can we throw it into Audacity and can we compress it? Often you can compress a background music file a lot without your player really noticing. Okay. All right. Unity analytics examples. Here's an example of like one of the functions that you might use, analytics event.levelComplete. It's literally that easy to start sending data to your dashboard. You'll find a dashboard, it'll look roughly like this, and you'll have different lines representing different things. What else do we got here? Here's a fun example of, so this is the kind of analytics you're going to do are very, very simple. Well, probably, unless you really go dive into it. But if you really want to take analytics to the next level, what AAA studios will often do is they will try and build out systems that allow them to gather like any data they want from a play session, including like replaying the exact play session. As it turns out, if you have a somewhat deterministic game, I'm not sure if it needs to be exactly deterministic, but if you have a deterministic game and you record the player inputs and what frame those inputs happen, as it turns out, you can store that in a file and you can reload it and use that to simulate back input, to essentially mock input events into your systems, and that will have the game play out in the exact fashion that it did on the player's computer. Here's an example of Arbor Interactive doing this. You can see my cursor right there went off the screen. That's my actual cursor, and this is the fake cursor that shows me where the player was playing. So we can see that the player is kind of getting bored a little bit. They're moving their big cursor around. We can see that they're moving around. When they click, you can see the red, right? And you can see them dragging stuff. You can watch them and see what they get confused by. Where do they spend their time? Do they run into any issues? It's really, really useful stuff, okay? So anyway, I'm kind of guilty of building out cool technology that I then never use. So don't be like me, okay? Build things that you need and that you will use right away. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I would like to introduce you to a concept called scriptable objects, okay? And oh, you know what? You know what? I want to do Mixamo first. Okay, I want to do Mixamo first, and then we'll use that result we get there to go and do some stuff on scriptable objects. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and show you what Mixamo is. So Mixamo, if you just type mixamo.com, what you will get is this website right here. Okay, and you can go ahead and log in. It's an Adobe website, so well, there you go. If you've already got like Creative Cloud stuff going on, then you can do that. Okay, click. If you don't have a password manager, I highly recommend it. It is 388 approved. Not now, please. Okay, and so now we should have our animations on the left. We should have a character model that we uploaded. This is Amy from the demo we just released, Greek Tragedy. And it's not a textured model, so it may look a little bit weird. It's just kind of grayish. But we got the T-pose going. And what Mixamo does is Mixamo is essentially a free and very accessible online repository of animations. And it goes beyond simply being a repository where you can download animations. You can actually preview them on a model of your choice. Which is super, super cool and very innovative in my opinion. We can see, okay, shoved reaction with spin. How would this look like on our particular character model? Shoved reaction with spin. It's kind of hilarious. We can have a jump down animation that we might want to use for a cutscene or something. A lot of these animations have humongous wind-up times, and they're a little bit lengthy, which means they probably wouldn't be great for gameplay animations, but they might be very good for like cutscenes, something like that. We can have a what do we got here? What's fun? We got that looks like such a sad pose right there. That's the failure result screen pose right there. We've got a goalkeeper scoop, so if we're making a soccer game here. But you know what? Like this just isn't really selling the power of Mixamo. I think we're gonna need a special friend to help us out. Okay, let's go ahead and get some stuff going here. What I want to do, remember, you should never ever do this. Copyright reasons, never sell a game if you're gonna do this. But just for your educational purposes, let's go ahead and invite our friend from the swamp here. And see how this goes. Many models that you might download from the asset store or other places comes in a zip file. You can just bring the zip file right in if you want to. It will open the zip and it will discover what's going on. We then need to kind of uh-oh, why is it stretched? I'm nervous now because it's stretched. Anyway, let's see how this goes. We're gonna place the chin. We're gonna tell Mixamo where the character's chin is. We're gonna tell Mixamo where the character's wrists are, where its elbow joints are, where its knee joints are, and then where its groin is. It's going to be somewhere in here, I believe, at the belt. Okay, and now we're going to wait a little bit, and we're going to see what kind of magic we can get going here. It's amazing. Somebody once told me about Mixamo, and I couldn't believe how impactful it is. Uh-oh, error occurred. So I think the issue is because it stretched my view here. It stretched my view. So we're going to do this. We're going to retry, and I'm going to move my my file here to my external monitor so I can drag it properly. Let's see here. We're going to go to upload character. We're going to drag in that file again. There we go. Going to give it a little bit more time. Hopefully the joints will work a little bit better this time. Yeah, the maximize that we did messed with the positioning. It's kind of a weird bug for them to have at this point, but okay. Wrists, we got the elbows going on, we got the knees. This is such a powerful software. It kind of auto rigs our bones for us onto a mesh that doesn't have any. So we'll go ahead and wait. How's everyone doing? Yeah, I know everyone's feeling a little bit tired, but we're almost there. We're almost there. A quick announcement: has anyone heard of a game called Raid Shadow Legends? Right? Has anyone had one of their favorite YouTube videos interrupted by that show? Well, that company is actually here in Michigan, which is really, really cool. That company's here in Michigan, and if you go to igda2.org, IGDA Ann Arbor, so igda2.org, then you can see that we have a really cool little presentation by that team. They are in Kalamazoo, and they'll be giving us a presentation on like what life is like working on a humongous mobile studio. And so it should be very, very interesting. Even if those aren't your favorite kind of games, the mobile games, I think you could still learn a lot. Okay, so we've got Shrek here. The created character has been uploaded. Yes, let's proceed. Okay, and can we get Shrek going? Here we go. We've got Shrek. And he's gonna be a little bit disappointed first. Oh, Donkey. Oh, help me out, Donkey. Okay. And we got some capoeira. You know, Shrek is he's got some moves. Okay, he's gonna taunt us a little bit. And perhaps most importantly, we can take these animations and we can actually get them into our game. Oh, what's that incredible Fortnite dance that everyone loves so much? What is it called again? What is it called again? Floss. Yes. Please. No? Oh, no. We don't have the floss. That's a real bummer and a half. I'll tell you that. Let's see what other kind of great dancing we can get from Shrek here. We've got jazz dancing. We've got salsa dancing. Okay, that's pretty cool. Let's go, Shrek. Oh, I don't think Shrek wants to do these animations. Sometimes it gets confused and the UI kind of stops working. Come on, let's go. Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool. Okay, let's get some. Okay, I think it's still loading. Okay, let's try and download this character now. Okay. Oh, it's still loading. Is it taking it somewhere else? So we're gonna go to download. Okay, we want this model. We want this character model. We also want this animation, and we are going to go to FBX for Unity. Okay, FBX will work, but you'll have a little bit less flexibility when you import it. FBX for Unity with skin, no optimization is fine. We'll go ahead and download that. And we will go ahead and start a new project really quickly. So new project. Okay, create a new project, it says up here. Let's just go ahead and name this Swamp. Let's call this Swamp Experience. So we got a new game we're making called Swamp Experience, and we're going to import Shrek really quickly just to kind of show you how to do it. All right. Fortnite. Oh, Fortnite will get us there? Is that it? You know, I really want to make something that's going to be popular. So I think the Fortnite dance would have been the way to go. All right. Oh, rest in peace. I wonder what the process is for submitting new animations. One of the coolest things about being at Michigan is we do have really cool facilities, and when the pandemic isn't going, we can actually use them. The Duderstadt Center actually has its own motion capture lab. So if you needed to have a floss Fortnite dance, then you could go to the motion capture studio, ask them to set up a session, and then you could go in there, put on the bodysuits, and with the balls on your limbs, and then you could do the dance, you know? It's, where you could do a, right? Yeah. You could do a dab. You can do whatever awesome pose that you want to. Okay? All right. Remember to floss at least once a day, kids. All right. This is quality content. But for real, this service is if you look through these animations and you play a lot of indie games, what you'll discover is that a lot of indie games get a lot of mileage out of the animations on this website, particularly if the game is 3D and particularly if it has humanoid characters. So it can be very, very impactful. I hope this finishes loading, though, because I would like to move on to something that will be more useful to most of our teams, which is scriptable objects, okay? In the meantime, we actually talked about $4.99. Wolverine Soft Studio is another really cool service. Not a service; it's a course that allows you to make huge games and get extra course credit for it. The registration isn't available for the Wolverine Soft Studio yet. But if you stick around in the Wolverine Soft Discord server, then you'll get the notification when it goes out, okay? I encourage it. As 494 students, you have a lot of experience to be very impactful and lead a lot of people and help them make, bigger games than you can in 494. Are there places where we get free 3D character models and characters? Yes, absolutely. So one of those is the... my favorite probably is OpenGameArt. OpenGameArt.org has a bunch of 3D models that you can use. And I think there are other resources out there, like TurboSquid is a big one, I think. And so, yeah, let's browse some 3D artwork. Here we go. 3D artwork, we've got a bunch of models here. The Asset Store also has a bunch of free 3D software. One of the nice things about 3D is that it is possible to... It is usually a little bit easier to kind of make it all fit cohesively in an art style. You can use shaders to dramatically change how something looks and make it feel more cohesive with other 3D models that don't use quite the same style. 2D can be absolutely beautiful, but it is often a little bit harder to get that feeling of cohesiveness than it is in 3D games, at least in my experience. Okay, this is taking a long time to load, but I think we're done now, okay? So, we now have our game. We also have our character here that we downloaded, so we can just drag it right in. Okay, there we go. So we're dragging in. Unity is very slow right now. Come on, is it in? I don't think it's in there. Now it is. PC Computer, it was called. What a strange name. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll drag this in. I'm not sure if it's gonna be. It's probably gonna be way too small, and it's also not textured, which is a little bit unfortunate. Let's go ahead and move on anyway. Let's bring this to our origin of our world, and let's go ahead and make it like. Let's change the import. So if you need if you have a model that you bring in and it's just way too small, what you can do is you can scale it on the transform for your game object, but you can also scale it in the model import settings. So let's do a scale factor of like 50 and see how big our ogre is. Okay, and that's not quite enough. Let's go ahead and double it maybe. Okay, so here's Shrek. And I'm thinking maybe we can help texture him if we can pull in the original model, which I think we can do. Let's go ahead and bye-bye. Yeah, we're gonna bring in the original model here, see if that helps at all. Okay. So now what I hope we can do is I hope we can find these materials. Let's create a couple more new materials out of this. So material, Shrek, matte, and we're gonna create, we're gonna bring in the albedo there. Okay, and then we're gonna create a new material. Let's call that Shrek shirt material. And we'll bring in the albedo from the Shrek shirt texture right in here. There we go. And yeah, we'll just see how this looks. Oh, that looks that looks all right. Looks okay. What else? That looks messed up. I'm not sure what's going on there. Yeah, I might have to explore why that's happening. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get this character animating. So we'll bring it over here, bring it up, we'll bring our camera down, we'll turn around our character. We'll actually bring it down so it can be seen properly. We will rotate it 180 degrees. If we play our game now, nothing's going to happen. The animation files themselves are in the project, but we haven't told this actual character to animate with those animations. If we look into our character, let's see, it's right in, where? Here? Yes. We should be able to see that animation file. The animation file always has an image like this with the moving triangle. And if we want to animate this, we need to supply an animator. So let's go ahead and look at our character here. We're going to provide, I think, let's provide an animator. There we are. And let's create a new controller. Animation controller. Let's call it Shrek Dance Controller. Probably just Shrek Controller. So if we wanted in the future, we could include other animations that aren't dancing. We'll make it a little bit more generic and flexible as a result. We'll double click on this and it will open up the animator window. This is a graph that you probably have experience with from your Project 1. What we want to do is we need to create a new node in this graph, this finite state machine. And we need to do so by dragging in that animation that we saw earlier. So we're going to go ahead and drag in the silly dancing. And hopefully, when we run the game, we'll get a little bit of dancing going on. We need to tell it, though, to use this controller. All right. Something you'll notice, though, is that this is going to freeze, right? And be a little bit awkward. And I believe, how did I fix this last night? I believe you need to tell the animation itself that it needs to be imported with looping. So we're going to click loop right there. This is an animation that can loop, and as a result, we've got Shrek and he's dancing. So that's pretty cool. So what I'd like to do next, you've seen how in about 5 minutes you can kind of preview a bunch of animations with the model that you found. You can have it automatically rigged if you need to, and then you can actually get it into your project. I think something went wrong with our import, and the texture's a little bit messed up. It didn't happen to me last night, but I shouldn't be too difficult to fix. I'll fix it after lecture. What I'd like to do now, though, is I would like to show you some things. I would like to show you how to implement a technique called a scriptable object. And I'd also like to show you how we use that currently in one of our Arbor Interactive projects. And so I'll get that loading in the background. And in the meantime, I'll show you how to create your own. So we'll get the horror game loading here. All right. So let's say that you have a game and you've got Dancing Shrek here. And Dancing Shrek can move around the world and show the world his dancing and inspire us all. However, when you get to certain locations, you have a concert, okay? You have a concert, and a concert is essentially a level, a stage. And that starts whenever you walk to it on the world map. So you walk to a place on the world map, you hit a trigger. That trigger, let's actually show these triggers. Let's create some. Let's go to a cube here. Our cube is going to be our trigger, and it's not going to have any visuals because we don't want to see it when the game starts, but we do want to be able to detect the collision. Okay, so when Shrek moves to this block, it's going to trigger a concert. Okay, concert trigger. Okay. Now a concert trigger. A concert trigger is going to be responsible for triggering the concert, but it is also going to be responsible for kind of allowing the designer to configure, okay, how long is that concert? How many shows do you have to do to complete the concert? What songs are in the concert, okay? And now, if you look in the corner, we now have a component called concert trigger, all right? Now, we could, allow the player to define all of this in public variables.